All right, so that particular quest ended up bugging out on me. Um, my friend did it like on his first go, but I guess this is a perfect opportunity for me to talk about questings in general. Um, Basically, it's well written overall. Voice acting is pretty good. It varies from excellent to.
Well, aren't you the fancy lad? What do you want, elf? Come to complain about the daggers? Go hide behind your mother's skirt, not the Nords.
Decent, and then you have very rarely I'd find the totally awful ones. Um,
Quiet. I sense spleen stranger. You must help me. My people have been taken by a Daedra.
but other than that, I think a lot of quests tend up to be bugged, and it's kind of hard to. The idea is to not be a quick judge about what's buggy and what's not, because it's based on scripting, and sometimes you don't want the quest. Like if the quests were to tell you everything that you needed to do in order to progress through the quest, well, it'd be, people will complain that, oh, it's dumbed down, it's too easy, all you have to do is follow the quest marker. And whenever you have quests that give you a little bit of a thinking challenge or a little thought process going on there, it's really hard to draw the line between what is buggy and what's not, what's intended. But in that particular case, my quest bugged out, and I had to start over. There's an option to abandon quests, which I found out that when you abandon quests, maybe there's a limit, but it pretty much resets the entire quest line. So if you have a quest storyline that has, say, I would say on average maybe 3 to 5 quests chained back to back, and you're stuck on part 5, let's say, and that portal doesn't close, then you're kind of screwed, and you have to abandon and redo the entire quest if you want to do it. And in some cases you want to do that because your friends will want to have assistance in doing their quests, and you can follow along and stuff like that, but you kind of want to be on the same page as them. And that's one of the worries that I had with phasing in general. And I think the server, it's hard to figure out what the servers are trying to do in terms of how to segregate people, because in some cases we were able to quests together as a group, and in some cases we were split. And I'm thinking that the servers having some issues in putting people together. I don't think you're supposed to be isolated, even though it is story wise. But it's kind of weird when sometimes you see that the game is trying to do something and it's clearly missing. Of course, in some cases it looks like it can be some interesting bugs, but on release, you really want to iron that out, and being able to enjoy yourself as opposed to being frustrating about. We tried going in and out of instances to try to force the computer to put us together, and it just wouldn't do it. Was it intended for that quest to be solo? In some cases, my friend redid a quest, and he knew for a fact that he was questing with other players, and in that particular case we weren't together. Although we were alone, we had nobody else with us, so it's not like we were playing with people we didn't want, but we couldn't play with people that we wanted to be with in the first place. So I think server-wise, there's some blending in. I think it's like character transfers from one server box to another, and that's causing an issue right there. But it can be a painful. The whole point of playing MMOs is to be able to play together, and that is a problem. But overall, our experience in the beta, and I say "our" because it's like I'm talking also with a buddy of mine I played the beta with, and judging by my experience, they were far and few between where the bug was kind of preventing us from enjoying. In most cases, we were together in a group, but yeah, phasing in general. I'm never too keen on the idea of phasing content, primarily because it separates the player base based on like chapters and stuff like that, and that's always an annoying thing. But yeah, other than that, like the quality of the quests, I find are pretty good. I think they're Bethesda standard, even though Bethesda has nothing. Well, I would say I wouldn't say like they have nothing to do with the questing in Elder Scrolls Online, but they're not making the game, so maybe they have some influence. But I think ZeniMax Online did a fantastic job of getting the feel, the style of the story. So if you've played an Elder Scrolls game before, you kind of know how the structures plays out in terms of questing. Now, there's also some things that you can't really. It's the gray area. You don't know if it's part of a bug or not. But in some cases, like there were some puzzles that a lot of people in chat were having some problems where they're trying to figure out like how do we solve this puzzle and stuff like that. And I had some difficulties myself, but it turns out that during the daytime, some of the visual effects wouldn't show up until nighttime. Now, was that intended? Maybe, but because you don't know, and because a lot of the content, I say a lot, some of the content is bugged out, and sometimes it's not even the content, sometimes it's just animations and stuff like that. When it's bugged out, then you're kind of wondering, am I experiencing a bug or was this intended? So you're really lost. You're fiddling with switches and stuff like that, trying to figure out what you're supposed to do and hope that either the game doesn't bug out or like fixes itself, or that you just magically get the solution. So that was kind of an issue. I do know that when I was questing in the Aldrimi Dominion, the Bosmer quest lines and stuff like that, there were NPCs. There's one particular case where the NPC runs at an amazing rate. Like on a horseback, you wouldn't be able to run that fast, and you're supposed to follow that character. And it's not one of those escort quests where the NPC is walking slower than you are and you have to wait for them to catch up. No. That character is booking it, and you have to use all that you have in terms of stamina to catch up to it. And even then, you see that character disappear on the horizon because of the draw distance. In that case, you have a lot of players trying to figure out like where the hell did that NPC go. And in that particular case, I did my like clever detective stuff. I feel pretty proud about myself, but I found out how, based on like where was that NPC going and what we were talking about, and like what was the theme of that quest, and I figure like I ended up going into the right house on the first try, and I was able to continue my quest. But for a lot of people, they were kind of stuck because it was like, I was supposed to follow this character, but he just disappeared. Where'd that character go? So there's a lot of that happening. But for the most part, the quests are functional, and it varies from the standard MMO of, kill 10 of these and deliver it to that kind of thing. But then you have traditional Elder Scrolls style quests. So it's a nice mixture between MMO and Elder Scrolls, and I think that best way to explain it is that when you're talking to NPCs and when you're I guess looting, or when you're traveling from one place to another and stuff like that, it feels very much like an Elder Scrolls game. But when you're in, I would say even in combat, it feels like an Elder Scrolls game. But when you're doing quests that you're looting, say, 10 boars or stuff like that, or that you're waiting for an NPC to respawn because you want to kill him, you're kind of reminded, oh yeah, I'm playing an MMO. I mean, it's kind of obvious because you see a lot of players running around. But yeah, there's that happening. But for overall, I think it's a good mixture. Nothing negative here. I mean, some of the stuff is archaic. Like I said, like waiting for an NPC to respawn can be a problem for some folks. But I mean, if you're looking into that old school style MMO, in some cases, then Elder Scrolls Online does, because sometimes, and it's kind of weird. But sometimes when you're waiting for an NPC, you can sort of connect with the other players that are waiting for you. I mean, I think they fixed the problem that there's no competition between players while you're questing. So if you have to collect 10 boars or kill 10 boars and the other guy next to you has to kill 10 boars, if you're just shooting at the boars, if you're participating in the fight, you'll get the credit. And if in your party, in most cases, and I say most, I think like 99% of the time, because that 1% will probably be a bug, your party member, if he kills the boar, you get the credit for it. That kind of stuff. But yeah, if you're alone, like you have to collect the head of that one NPC that you need to spawn. So you got like 10 people waiting for the respawn. Well, the moment the guy respawns, kind of everybody gets the credit for it. So it's like, it's fine. It's just sometimes annoying that well, the marker told me to wait here, but there's nobody there. So it's like, there's that happening. I think that happened in the entire beta. The experience I had throughout the weekends, it happened to me once where I had to wait for an NPC to respawn. But, if I see that happening at least once, I have to expect it to happen a couple of times. If you guys are familiar with some of my videos on my channel, you'll notice that I'm a sucker for vistas. I love beautiful environments and stuff like that. And I can't help but be overwhelmed by the amount of detail that ZeniMax and Bethesda's put into these games. You see where the influence is from, because you look everywhere, and at least I can't help but being reminded of the previous games that I used to play. Like whenever it's the Skyrim game or Morrowind, the environments from Ash Mountains to just the overall Morrowind area, where it's just a bunch of rocks and mushrooms, little grass. And I also love the updated look that they have. One of the complaints about Morrowind, and I'm talking vanilla here, is the color palette. I have an issue with the color palette because as much as I like brown, Morrowind has a lot of browns and reds and stuff like that. And it's fine for itself. Of course, it's also a very old game, although that doesn't really excuse it. But in any case, Elder Scrolls Online kind of have its own twist to it. It adds more color. Like, I'm looking at the environments here, and I recognize where this is supposed to be, and it screams to me that this is an Elder Scrolls. I'm looking around, and I'm inside an Elder Scrolls game. And you would think that wouldn't be hard to do, because you're thinking, well, Elder Scrolls is just generic, role-playing game with dragons and stuff like that. But when you think about it, like, it's not just about putting mushrooms on the ground and whatever. It has a thing. It has a vibe to it, and I think it's kind of like how you recognize an elf of the Elder Scrolls compared to any other elf in any other RPG mythos, where it's whenever it's Lord of the Rings or World of Warcraft, what have you, Warhammer Online, you look at the elves and that you recognize these elves as being from the Elder Scrolls series. They have that style to it. It's like not necessarily the execution, about like the skin tones and stuff like that, because that could be fairly generic, but I'm looking like the shapes and facial features and stuff like that, and they're very iconic to the series, I find, and there's some ways that they've managed to pull that off with the environments, whenever it's colors, shapes, rocks, the way they form and stuff like that. I find that to be very appealing. Also, you can't talk about the environments in Elder Scrolls Online without talking about stuff that you pick up. Actually, just forget what I said about the Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls in general, you walk around, you see a plant, chances are you can pick it up. And in this place, it's just everywhere, to the point where I'm not even looking. Like, I'm not much of a gatherer to begin with when I play MMOs. And in Elder Scrolls Online, there's no ping on the map. There's no indicator that tells you, hey, this plant, you can pick it up. You only know that you can pick it up until you move close enough to have the prompt to say, hey, press E to pick it up. In some cases, you kind of see, well, that plant looks it stands out of the rest, so yes, maybe you can pick it up, and you go in over there, and yes, you can. Although we were surprised, in some cases, we found out that some plants that we thought were picked were, interactable. We couldn't interact with, although those were rare. But you can pick up anything from, well, they're mostly all, crafting ingredients. So plants for alchemy, and you got, I think, some plants for enchanting. I'm confused. No, actually, my friend was mentioning that he was picking up plants for clothing. So there's that. And we got materials for enchanting that are lying on the ground. You have wood everywhere, and that also, I guess you can say, it's a segue to looting in general, where chests are scattered randomly all over the map, and they're all locked, and they have a different difficulty level. There's a mini game for lockpicking that's like a mixture between. You know what? I wouldn't even say it's a mixture. It's basically just a updated version of the Oblivion lockpicking mechanic. It's more stressful because it's time-based. The difficulty of the pins vary from pin to pin, but the locks themselves have a level of difficulty where the higher level it is, more challenging they are, the shorter the amount of time you have of unlocking the entire thing. And if you fail to unlock the chest, it opens up the opportunity for other players to interact with that chest and loot it up, because that chest is available to everybody in the world, and that's probably the only competition that you would probably get, is that there's only one player. Even in your group, you have that one player that can interact with that chest, or even any objects like plants and stuff like that. Only one player can interact and pick it up. And if you fail to unlock it, then you can have another attempt at it, but you have to wait a couple of seconds before you have another go at it, and it allows other players to try it, and if they succeed, then they get the loot. In the case of groups, there's no dice rolling when there's a loot. Like, loot is individual, so if you loot a corpse on the ground, that's for you. It's not shared to the group. So as far as that goes, some people might cry foul, like, why did they do this? It's not standard for MMOs, blah 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 blah. It actually is when you think about it. I mean, World of Warcraft has chests lying around in dungeons and stuff like that, and only one guy can interact with that chest at a time. So I don't find that to be that alien to or outside the norm to see that behavior for interactable objects. The only thing, though, is that in World of Warcraft, you have that whenever there's like a magical item, you have that prompt where everybody in the group has a chance to roll on it and get the chance of looting that. There's not None of that is happening within the Elder Scrolls Online. So if you're grouping with friends, then you can, first come, first serve. You'll have to be friendly and say, oh yeah, what did you get? It was like, I got a cool sword. Oh, let me look at it and stuff like that. And then you share. With pickup groups, random people, first come, first serve. I don't think there's any issue with that. You shouldn't get all your knickers in a bunch because, oh no, that guy got in before me. And if he fails, you just wait next to the chest, and if he fails, then you got a chance to pick it up. So, all's fair. Yeah, the items themselves, I don't find them to be that special in the sense that there's nothing, good or bad, there's nothing that stands out as far as the item goes. In standard Elder Scrolls stats, they're easily readable, like armor values, damage output, and stuff like that. It's very standard stuff. I didn't find necessarily the rewards to be amazing, but nothing too boring either. So it was one of those, items. You expect to find some. They're there, and you'll find some upgrades. Obviously, you can craft some on your own. And the cool thing about crafting, as complicated it is for me to understand crafting because I suck at it, didn't have too much of a chance to experiment with it too much. Mainly because it's not in my blood. I'm not a crafter, so I had to basically force myself to dabble with it a little bit, and I couldn't understand it. I understand some of it. The cool elements is that no matter what you're crafting, whenever it's like bows or shields or swords and armors and robes and stuff like that, you can decide the visual appearance of that item, and that's kind of cool. It reminds me a lot of picking the look like between, like, say, iron bows and Dwemer bows, or you want a shield that looks kind of cool. You know that you want it to look like you have that dwarven feel that you want to have on your shield, because your entire armor is dwarven. So what you do is you craft your shield, and you can set it up to say, I'm going to craft it in a Dwemer style. The only thing is that you have to have that. That's actually part of the looting mechanic, where you can pick up styles. So you have that one item that says, this is style of the Nords. So if you consume that item, your bow will be a Nordic bow, and then you have to find another one of those Nordic thingy-mabobs, and then you'll have to be able to craft like a Nordic helmet and stuff like that. And I find that really appealing, although I'm probably not going to dabble with it at all. Who knows? I'm not a crafter, so... but yeah, it creates... I think it's one of the unique things about the crafting mechanics within the Elder Scrolls Online. I know, and I love the crafting in GuildWars. There's a nice mixture between recipe mechanics, where kind of like in World of Warcraft, where you find a recipe and it tells you exactly what you need to craft, and then you have to, there's an oath, like in Guild Wars 2, you also have the way to just explore and experiment and learn crafting recipes that way. In Elder Scrolls Online, you kind of have a little bit of both. It's mostly like, here's the items that you want to make, and then see if you don't have. I think you have all the recipes. I could be wrong. I know that when you're cooking or brewing mead and stuff like that, you have specific recipes that you can loot and learn. I don't know anything about weaponsmithing or anything like that. As far as I know, weaponsmithing, you select what type of weapon you want, and it's already in the list, and all you have to do is pick up like the style that you want, like you want like an Argonian style bow, or basic stats on it, and then you craft it. If you have the materials, you craft it. You also have experimental elements to it where I don't know if you learn the recipe, but it's like in enchanting you can learn words and stuff like that. It's kind of weird. Again, I'm not too familiar with the crafting mechanic. I spent maybe an hour in total doing that in the entire weekends that I've played the Elder Scrolls Online, so I got nothing else to say on that. It feels okay. Basically, I'm as lost in crafting as any other game, so I guess for the crafter, there should be plenty of stuff happening in there. So yeah. Now, this wouldn't be an MMO if it didn't have any, emotes, and this game features a lot of emotes. I just think that the game sucks for not showing you a list of what all the possible emotes you can do. You pretty much have to experiment on your own, and the community so far, but they're still cool. My favorite is the lute. You got a few instruments. You can have the flute, the lute, the drums. I think that's all the instruments actually. But yeah, like a couple of emotes like that is always nice to have. Some are, more interesting than others, but they're there. You just gotta find them. So I'm now level 10. Now I'm actually kind of curious to see how this goes, the PvP. But I think I have to go to groups first. Because I'm thinking... Yeah, I have access to dungeons now, but it requires at least level 12. This was empty before, but I'm level 10 and now it allows me to queue up, I guess. What I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to go to the Alliance War. I got no campaign. Not exactly sure how to join it yet. Alright, Alliance War. Do I have to choose a campaign first? See, this is kind of weird, because this is not in the order that you see them in the character creation. This is the first one, and then it goes... Inconsistencies like that kind of annoy me a little bit. But at least I know I'm red, so let's see. I guess I'll just pick one, because they're all pretty... I'll go with the Blackwater Blade. Oh, Azure Star, I love that name. It's kind of a little too full, though. It's medium, so I guess it'll... Alright. Set home campaign. Are you sure you wish to set your home campaign to Azure Star? After entering this campaign, you will be restricted from changing it. Oh, for 24 hours. So you can switch around. That's good to know. And I know you can always be invited to other campaigns if your friends are set elsewhere. So, and to my understanding, by this little button right here, radio box, it means that campaigns reset after a while. I mean, it makes sense if you're an emperor for a certain amount of time. So I'm there now. So does that mean that I can teleport to the... I don't know how that works. Because I don't necessarily need a group to go in... Oh, is it in the map? Is that what it is? No, not even. So I'll just teleport here. Yeah, there we go. So this is one of the things that I feel is missing from the game right now is instructions on how to do things. I guess I missed some if there were any, but if that's the case, it's so easily to miss. So we're not doing too good. Daggerfall is doing really well. Alright, so what I'm going to do... Can I teleport here? I have no idea what this means. But that's not what I wanted to do. So I guess I can't teleport there yet. So I can teleport here. I just want to... Go there.